Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of We Empower. I'm thrilled to have you all with us today. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired. Let's make today count. And today's episode, we will have a great guest here to introduce. It's Alfonso Pantisano, and he's a strong voice of the queer community, a passionate activist for inclusion and diversity, and many more he has to tell here. I'm so much looking forward to having him here. He's a fearless defender of human rights. Meet Alfonso Pantisano. A strong voice of the queer community, a passionate activist for inclusion and diversity. Welcome here in the show, Alfonso.
Hi, good morning. Very much looking forward talking to you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for taking the time here, Alfonso. I'm really happy that you're here, and it's great that we started with a song selected by you, "Save My Soul." I mean, I watched it and it made me a bit goosebumps because we're in times where there's a lot of confusion, and it's for me a reminder that even in chaos, there's hope for clarity and salvation. Does it have a private message for you?
Well, I believe that the biggest challenge that we have at the moment is to protect what we have gained.
Yes.
And by saying that, always looking also to those countries that aren't in a privileged position like us, for example, here in Germany or in the UK. But at the same time, we see the big backlash that is happening all over the world. And I think what people usually that are not really part of the queer community tend to forget, but even I think queers themselves, is that at the end, it affects our souls a lot. What is going on at the moment is a huge, huge problem for our stability, for our
Yeah.
security, but also for our mental health.
Yes.
And quite often, I believe that our soul, at least here in Germany and in other parts of Europe, but also in the US, our queer soul has never been so much under attack over the last 40, 50, 60 years.
I completely agree with you. And I think we often forget that attacking any of us, attacking any soul, means attacking the whole society. And this some people forget if they attack others, it means also in the end attacking themselves. And attacking the bodies means attacking the souls. And attacking the society and attacking everything what means respectful living together on this planet. They often forget about that. And I need to introduce you before we start, and I could do it for the whole hour, I guess. But let me start with a few sentences about you. You have been, or you are Berlin's most visible and creative advocate, one of them, for the interest of queer communities, and you have been this for many years already. And you have a remarkable ability to build bridges and raise awareness and understanding for queer issues beyond the community, which is important and on a national level, not just in very small groups. And you bring equality of queer people into focus as a human rights. There will be inspiring, especially young people, to engage in political activism. With many years of experience in various organizations and positions, you have been created a deep understanding of political and civil society structures, and you're especially well connected for driving this to the further, which is important. In 2013, so some years already ago, you co-founded the initiative Enough is Enough, which over the years became the largest German-speaking queer grassroots movement. Yes, your tireless commitment, including advocacy for marriage equality for same-sex couples, for a modern self-determination law, and for the abolition of the blood donation ban for queer people, has helped bring these issues into the media spotlight and public discourse. As a member of the National Board of the Lesbian and Gay Association in Germany, you're playing a key role in raising public and political awareness of the realities faced by LGBTQS plus individuals. And thanks to your efforts in 2023, for the first time in history, the Conference of Interior Ministers included hate crimes against queer people on its agenda. I think we can say you understand queer issues as cross-cutting topics, and you emphasize that they must not be viewed in isolation from the situation of other marginalized minorities or broader social justice issue, what we just talked about. And as a son of Italian immigrations, shaped also by your own experience, social justice and equity are the core of your advocacy. You really live what you talk about. This is something I think. really can say. And as I said before, the last time I saw you were standing on stage where the German Käfig voller Narren, this musical was played, and you gave such a great emotional statement. I was impressed about that, for living as you like, living your full potential, wherever you come from and wherever you are.
Thank you very much. I'm, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I remember that evening that I was at the Opera House of the Komische Oper and we were watching the musical La Cage aux Folles, and it was in May. It was on the 17th of May on the
Yeah.
International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia, and I came out at the end of the show with this impressive cast in my back and supporting and holding me there on stage, where I basically was addressing the issue of the queer community, and especially of the many children and young people who define themselves as queer,
Hmm.
who are in search of who they are,
Hmm.
and who define themselves as trans. And I
Hmm.
remember that, let alone in Berlin, we have one organization that deals with trans children and trans youth.
Hmm.
And this organization has over 700 members' families. So in Berlin,
Wow.
we have at least 700 families that are dealing with trans kids or trans youth. And it's quite impressive, the remarkable work these parents are doing,
Yeah.
and family structures that are holding them and allowing them to grow in a very self-determined way.
This
And
is super.
I found that it was important to speak out for them, because quite often we tend to forget the young people.
Exactly. And I think the situation couldn't have been better. And it's so important to start with the youth, to start from scratch, that everybody has a chance from start and won't be discriminated. And I understand this. I mean, my parents migrated into Germany, and I understand when I was young and everybody said you were different, and I felt different, and I wanted to live this different way. Um, it's so important that democracy means that you can live this way, and we defend this, especially in times like that. If we go into your personal journey, can you take us back to a defining moment in your life when you realized that you had to become an advocate for the queer community, for freedom for everybody, for unfolding the potential for everybody?
I think that my history, when I look back, has been, even though it has been a hard one, I think it has still been a very privileged one, because when I think about it, young
Mm,
people have to fear, young queer people have to fear for their lives, or they don't see any meaning in their lives because they believe that they do not belong here.
mm,
And they self-harm themselves, or even try to commit suicide, and some even yeah, take their own lives, just because they don't see any sense in this chaos that we are growing up, where we keep hearing all the time that we are not right the way we are. Then I think I had a very privileged life. No matter, my parents kicked me out of the house when they found out that I was gay,
oh,
and that made me become homeless, and my whole journey started from there somehow.
mm,
A defining moment, I think there have been a few, but I think that when I have realized that your huge family, my mom has 9 brothers and sisters. My
wow.
father has 2 brothers and sisters. They all have huge numbers of children around them. The Italian family is very, very big. But when the system of the family spits you out and tells
Mm,
you that you do not belong anywhere anymore, that was, I think, the most defining moment where I have decided that I don't want any other child to go through that. And
mm,
that's why I've decided to then raise my voice and try to play a part in this, yeah, in this big fight for equality.
yeah, great. And have you managed to become a kind of peace with your parents, that they understand how important it is and it has been for you to work this way?
Oh, absolutely. My parents are now huge supporters. I would almost even say advocates.
Wow.
My parents, they had quite little education at their time. Uh, they never visited a university. I think they've never really read a book. So we don't come from a privileged
Environment.
background.
Mm.
And it's hard for them. It was hard for them to understand what does it actually mean to be homosexual.
Hmm. I can
Uh,
imagine.
and so they had to come to terms with it, and they had to understand, and they had to go through a huge process of learning, and also through a huge process of forgiveness, because
Hmm.
um, they were they at some point they have realized, what have we done? We have kicked out of our nucleus of the family our own son,
Yeah.
just because he is the way he is. And
Hmm.
I think that my parents have learned a lot, and I'm very proud of them. And yes, looking back, it has been a hard time, but looking forward, it is a very promising time, because I have two friends now next to me who support me the way that I am and for what I do.
That's great that you see it that way. And I mean, I can remind my grandmother coming from Romania, and then her own male grandchild, male grandchild, where she said, "Oh, he will get many, many children. He will marry." When he came with an with eyebrow marker and lipstick, she said, "I think you are sick." And I think you have to understand this. If somebody has a quite fixed mindset, then something like this is maybe hard for this person, that somebody is not fitting in this mindset and this system anymore. But helping these people, widening the mindset, understanding that everybody has a place, everybody should live the life to the fullest, no? And should have the chance, and there's nothing sick about that. It's just another way of life. This is sometimes hard for the people to understand.
I wouldn't like to bring um, our liberty of self-determination and our liberty of being who we are in comparison to illnesses, because we are not ill. And
Exactly. Exactly. That's a hard word.
um, what is ill, if you want to put it that way, is the system that doesn't accept that everyone is equal.
Exactly. Completely with you.
That is the illness that we have to cure in our society. The illness where we believe that some people have the right to define themselves above others.
Yes.
Um, I have a feeling that society, looking back, hasn't really learned from the mistakes that we have made in the past. Humanity has made many mistakes.
Yeah.
And as much as we know that reaching out to the top
Mm.
is something that a lot of people like to aim for, we forget quite often that that doesn't give you the right then to step down to those that you believe are beneath you.
Yeah.
This whole concept of being above or being beneath is a wrong concept. We should all be on eye level, and we should all be equal,
Yeah.
no matter where we come from, no matter what we believe in. At the end, we are all humans, and we should all have the same respect that, in fact, also our German constitution and other constitutions in other democratic nations grant us, and quite often fail to then really deliver to us.
Yes. And I mean, we all know that diversity is the key to success, to innovation. Democracy, or unfolding your potential, is the key to being innovative, to be future forward thinking. If we stick in traditional narrow systems, this will make us sick, and this will drop us down. And this is the chances if we think beyond borders. beyond the borders we have in our heads, which are sometimes the borders people I think sometimes need if if they're feeling insecure about things. So they just as other people, just to support or help themselves. No? So we continue, Alfonso. We started beforehand with talking about how important diversity is, especially for times like this. And I mean, taking into account where we are currently facing Trump with his idea that things we earned hard about understanding how important diversity is. This is for me a huge step back, unbelievable huge step back into traditional beliefs, into really not democratic systems.
Yeah, the situation is quite hard. I mean, again, when we talk about the world, we shouldn't really only focus on what's going on at the moment in the USA.
That's right.
We're still looking at it from a very privileged position, because I want to remind that there are over 70 countries in the world where being homosexual, being trans, being queer is against the law, is criminalized. In some countries, being the way that I am will let you face death penalty.
That's
So
unbelievable. And it's
situation,
unbelievable also, from my point of view, Alfonso, that the democratic or the countries which are naming themselves democratic, that they are not doing more against that.
in a way, I mean, I don't want to sound now very, very polemic, but in a way, Europeans brought those drastic laws to those countries that are still criminalizing homosexuality.
Hmm.
If the Brits look back, for example, if we just want to take the Brits, when they went into colony to Africa, they have brought all these drastic laws to Africa.
Yes,
But when they
exactly.
left, they didn't take those crazy laws with them, they just left them there. And so we still have to deal with the damage that us Europeans, who have somehow the belief that we have created the concept of democracy,
Hmm.
that's the damage that we have caused to the world, and we are still facing the consequences today.
Yes.
So I think that we shouldn't put ourselves in a better position when we look at, for example, African countries or other countries that criminalize homosexuality. At the
Hmm.
same time, looking at the US, it is a huge reminder to see that democracy is nothing that can be
Hmm.
taken for granted.
Yeah.
Democracy is something that you have to work for. Democracy is something that you have um,
To earn.
to argue for. Democracy is something that you have to defend.
Yeah,
And I think
exactly.
that we have lived a couple of decades where we thought that we don't need to worry anymore about our democracy. And now we are realizing actually the strong democracy turns out to be a very weak
Yeah.
democracy. And it is weak also because we have let off our guards. We have
Hmm.
relaxed. We
Yeah.
have taken the time not to focus anymore in protecting what we had all fought for, or those
Hmm.
before us have fought for. And so, you know, we are facing quite huge problems at the moment in the US, but in other parts of Europe, we are facing it. Well, you mentioned enough is enough. When I started my activism,
Hmm.
he realized what was going on when Putin started to attack the queer community in Russia.
Yeah.
Um, so the situation is really hard to handle, especially when I come back to the song that we played before in Save My Soul, because it's actually heartbreaking and soul
Yeah.
smashing what is happening at the moment for people who are like we are. I
Hmm.
often think, what does a young child on the sofa at 8 p.m. In the evening, when they listen with their parents to the news program on TV, and they
Hmm.
hear all of these horrific stories against trans people, against the queer community, against other
Yeah.
minorities, what what do they think, knowing deep inside of themselves that whatever they are hearing is addressed also against themselves?
Yeah.
And what happens when they hear their own parents agreeing with what, for example, Trump is doing?
Yeah.
So that dilemma is a huge one, and the psychological challenges that these kids are facing are immense. And
Hmm.
that's one of the reasons why a lot of the young people, also here in Germany, self-harm themselves or try to commit a suicide on a regular basis, which is a very, very horrific thing to talk about. Because I
Hmm.
can't really imagine, and in the year 2025, children are forced to go through this trauma
Yeah.
just because society keeps telling them that they are not okay the way they are.
Hmm. Exactly. What
That,
was the
that is
most
that is
sorry?
actually I wanted to highlight that to me
Yeah.
is actually the crime committed here. That you are telling kids that they are not okay the way
Hmm.
they are.
Exactly. And which way they are, that they can't unfold their potential, that they can't grow in their own path. And completely with you. What was the most difficult situation, challenge you faced as a queer activist in Germany,
Biggest challenge that I faced.
or situation, or the hardest experience?
I think I, th- I think we face hard experiences every day. Um, the biggest challenge to me personally on a political side was to basically bring to the attention of the interior ministers that hate crime should be treated on a governmental level, hate crime against queer people. You have to imagine that since the creation or the foundation of the Federal Republic of Germany,
Hmm.
the interior ministers come together twice a year. We're talking about now over 60 years, come together every year twice,
Hmm.
and they have an agenda on topics to talk about,
Hmm.
always related on crime, on security, interior security. And whilst the numbers of hate crime against queer people are rising year by year, we're
Yeah.
being attacked every year more than the year before, every
Hmm.
single year.
Hmm.
It never came up to their minds to actually consider that they should actually sit down and talk about what the hell is going on with the hate crime against the queer community. And I remember that I had spoken to the interior minister of Berlin
Hmm.
uh, at, at a garden party.
Yeah.
And I allowed myself to get close to him and I said, hey, just, I wanted to talk to you and ask you, have you ever thought of bringing the topic to on the agenda? And he started to explain to me why he thought that it wouldn't be accepted as a topic, that he thought that it would become difficult to get everyone to agree on it, and therefore it wouldn't be worth even trying it. And then somehow I was kind of speechless because I didn't know
Yeah.
what to reply.
Yeah. I
And
completely
I actually
understand.
and I actually looked at him and I said, you know what? Can I be honest? I'm sick of this. I'm really, really sick of this. I can't stand hearing you guys all the time telling me why things are not possible, why things will not work, why things should not be put forward.
Yeah.
We need even a signal that you are even at least trying. You
Yeah.
haven't tried yet.
Yeah.
And what if one of your children one day will come back and say, Dad, I am gay and I am being harassed, and the security in this country does not consider us being under threat, even though we are under threat every single day?
Yeah.
What would
Exactly.
happen? And then he looked at me quite shocked by the way that I aggressively attacked him by talking to him. He actually looked at me and he said, you know what? let's sit down next week and talk about it, and we'll do it.
Wow.
And I thought actually that he just said that in order to,
To just say,
calm me down,
yeah,
and let me go my way. But actually, the week after, I've received a call from his office inviting me to his office, and we sat down and we put this on the agenda.
right.
And at the end, we had a whole conference of the interior ministers of Germany dealing with the issue of hate crime against the queer community for the very first time.
Wow. That's
And,
great.
and that was important because since then things are, I wouldn't say changing, but things are becoming more of a topic for people who actually like to oversee us and our struggles.
Mhm. This is so important. Great that you fight for that. I mean, you are so powerful when you speak, and you have so many obstacles which you have to face. How do you stay resilient and hopeful when facing setbacks or just resistance in your advocacy work?
The resistance against my, well, I face resistance every single day. I
Yeah.
seriously, I face resistance every day. The whole community faces resistance every single day.
So,
Uh,
what is your secret so to stay so resilient?
well, the question is, am I resilient? When I
Yeah.
step out of the house, I put on some sort of warrior mode,
Yeah.
but I come back to the song. My
Mm.
Since I have been so much involved with activism,
Yeah.
my soul, like the soul of many others out there, is suffering a lot.
Hmm.
It's hard to fight against a system
Yeah.
that promises you to be equal, but teaches you every day that you are not.
Hmm.
And fighting against this big lie is a huge, huge challenge. And demanding every single day those issues that you consider as being basic human rights.
Hmm. Exactly.
I find it outrageous that I still have to fight for basic human rights.
Hmm.
For
Exactly. That's it.
for things that our German constitution promises us.
Hmm.
Article 3 of the German constitution promises us everyone is treated equally in front of the law. Unfortunately, that might be the case for heterosexual people. For
Hmm.
queer people, that has never been the case since that law has been written down on a paper.
Yeah. That.
Still today in 2025.
Yeah. That's right.
Fighting against a system who tells me on the paper that I'm treated equally,
Hmm.
reality tells us every single day that that is a lie.
Hmm. Yeah, there's a lot more important to do, right? But on the other hand, you can be proud of what you reached so far. I mean, these are big steps you reached, even if we have to say that these are basics and normally should be already there. But you showed that it's possible to bring back the rights. You fought for marriage equality, self-determination, euthanasia rights. Was there a moment when you realized this is working? We changed things? This is getting better. People start understanding.
Yeah, a huge defining moment was when marriage equality was passed in German parliament.
Mm,
I remember being on the tribune of the parliament building and watching it live under the roof of the Reichstag. And the moment that the vote passed, I broke down in, I think, in a 15 minutes crying mode. Uh, couldn't I could not stop crying
wow.
just because it was something that we had fought for so long.
Yeah.
Um, and I was I was in a way incredulous that it had happened, at the same time, I was like relieved that this huge, heavy weight fell off our shoulders. I was thinking about all those countries where this is still not possible, and I
Yeah.
felt ashamed that I was celebrating for something that they still don't have. Um, and I was thinking of the little Alfonso, like all the little other children that queer people have always walking next to them, their,
Yeah.
their inner childs who knew back then when they were young that they would never be able to marry.
Yeah.
And now they realized, now we can.
Mhm. I think, and I liked it what you said in the beginning, where we talked about that some people just living in their own world, and it's and if we put ourselves into their shoes, we see that that they're sticking in their own word. It's not because of being arrogant or something. It's just because of insecureness, of just trying to say my word is the word which is right. So you're also somebody who is a bridge builder. You're kind of translator to the people, to other people who have no idea about this, who need an understanding about what it means and why is this so important. What is your secret, or what is your method, or what is important for you to building these bridges? How do you do it to make other people understand why it is so important to support diversity in any way?
Well, I think that what I do a lot is speaking to everyone. I don't mind any conversation. I take on every argument. I listen and I argue and I try to convince
Yeah.
and, and to teach sometimes that life is changing. And I try to make people understand our realities. And I try to do it in in basic words. I try
Hmm.
not to be too academic about it. I'm not an academic myself, but I try not to be academic about it
Hmm.
because I want everyone to understand what we go through.
Hmm.
Um, I think that everyone gets, for example, the point that I say when straight people walk outside on the streets and hold each other's hands,
Yeah.
they usually, when that moment of touching the hand of the other happens, they usually feel happiness, warmth, call
Yeah.
it love, passion, whatever it is. Always positive thoughts.
Hmm.
When queer people hold each other's hands outside on the streets, the first thing that they always, always, always think is fear.
Hmm.
That's something that I keep telling everyone. The other thing is, we get quite often told, why do queer people always have to talk about their sexuality?
Yeah.
We actually never do. I don't remember walking around introducing myself to people and saying, excuse me if I put it honestly like I say it. I walk around and say, hi, I'm Alfonso, I'm 50 years old and I like anal sex. I I never introduce myself like that.
Yeah.
I possibly say, hi, I am Alfonso. Sometimes I say I'm a gay man if the situation requires me to say that.
Hmm.
Quite often I do what straight people do. I say I go and pick up my boyfriend from work. I am
Hmm.
weekend with my boyfriend to the lake. I remember once having a phone call with a former president of the German parliament
Hmm.
who told me on the phone, Alfonso, but I don't understand why you gay guys always have to talk about your sexuality all the time. And I said, actually, that's a mistake. It's a misunderstanding because I think that if you put it this way, you as a heterosexual man talk about your sexuality quite more often than I do it about my sexuality. how dare you saying that? Well, I can tell you, because every time you tell me about you go and picking up your wife from work, you're telling me you're straight. Every time you tell me you're going to pick up your kid from school, you're telling me you're straight. And before we had marriage equality, every time you used to show that on your hand that you had a ring on your finger, you were telling me that you were straight without even talking. But the problem here is this. That's what I told him. I said, when you tell me that on last weekend you were with your wife at the lake, I hear that you were with your wife last weekend at the lake. When I tell you I was last weekend with my boyfriend at the lake, you hear anal sex. But that's not my problem. That's your problem. You have to deal with that. You have to deal with that. And I think that that kind of language,
Yeah.
as much as it is confronting and as much as it is harsh and as much as it might be not the most elegant way of expressing things, makes people understand where the problem lies. Because again, I don't remember ever in 50 years introducing myself, hi, I'm Alfonso, I'm 50 years old and I like anal sex. I've never done that. I've never done that. But that's often what people hear when I say I'm going with my boyfriend to the cinema.
Yeah. Thank you very, very much, Alfonso. I think you brought us, all listeners here, some sensitivity. And I think that if we just have in our mind what holding hands means, and should be a symbol also for understanding how important diversity is, holding hands with warmth, with respect, with love, and not with fear. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you
And
for
I,
having me. And if I can, if I have 1 second to add something, I would like to at least address all the queer people out there who might be listening at the moment. And I know
yes,
that the situation at the moment is very hard for all of us, but I wanted to remind all of us queers that we are amazing the way we are beautiful the way we are, and we are right the way we are. We should never forget that.
exactly. Thank you so much, Alfonso. I wish we have a bit more time, and we should definitely talk further because I really adore what you do, and it's so important work you do. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.